What is happening, you guys? Top Gun back here once again. This came out a few days ago, or in the middle of this last week, of Tucker Carlson doing an interview. With this scientist. I was gonna say Japanese. I don't know. I don't know his background, um, but he is a scientist and an extremely smart one. And I'll let Tucker Carlson do the explaining of what this dude's background is, but it's something that, like myself, like back in the days when everything was knowledgeable, like everything was knowledge, and there was no wanking competition in terms of who knew what. But we kind of knew the fundamentals of what planets were made up of, what had such and such, and I knew personally that carbon emissions didn't really do much. Like, didn't do much. I don't know the long term effects of carbon, but now I know that I know differently now. It's something we've never had to be concerned about, but the powers that be think otherwise. So without further ado, let's get into this. And yeah, well, kind of explains what's happening in our world today, like perfectly. How they're trying to really, really screw us over in the world. But anyway, without further ado, enough talking from me. Let's get on with it.
In the United States, we often refer to our main sources of energy as fossil fuels. Oil, natural gas, coal, they're fossil fuels because they come from fossils, ancient organic material, forests, jungles, plankton, dinosaurs. Held under the ground for millennia, they transform into oil, gas, and coal. Everybody thinks that's true. On the other hand, there's evidence that maybe it's not the whole story. If that's where fossil fuels come from, if that's how hydrocarbons are made, then how come they're found so deep under the oceans and at the top of the Earth? How come one of Saturn's moons, according to scientists, has more oil and natural gas than Earth? Were there dinosaurs and planktons and forests?
I have seen this, and I was extremely surprised because one of Saturn's moons, Titan, I thought was a giant ice ball. But turns out, I'll let him explain it. Turns out it's not the case.
At one point on one of Saturn's moons? Probably not. So if all hydrocarbons aren't from fossils, where are they from? And why isn't this commonly known? And what are the implications of it? And what does it tell us about our modern climate change policy? These are not just esoteric questions, they're central questions, actually, as we chart the future of energy usage in the world. Willie Soon has been thinking about this for a long time. He's an astrophysicist, a geoscientist. He spent 31 years at Harvard. He recently left, and he joins us here. Dr. Soon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tucker.
I appreciate
it's a blessing to be able to come on your show.
Well, it's a blessing to have you. And this is such an interesting question with so many implications.
Yes.
And I want to spend most of our time talking about the implications. But just to the strict question of where hydrocarbons come from, it sounds like they're not necessarily all from ancient forests or plankton or dinosaurs, are they?
Yes. The story can be a bit long, so give me a few minutes to
Yes.
explain. You are certainly right, but most important to clarify is that the information that is found on the largest moon on Saturn, which is called Titan,
Yes.
is actually results from NASA, European Space Agency,
Yes.
and then the Italian Space Agency, who built this spacecraft called Cassini and Huygens. Actually, one of my thesis advisor committee is actually built the UV spectrometer, but the one that they used to discover this, basically the ocean liquid form of methane, which is in 18.
That's actually kind of interesting. I've already watched this before, but it still amazes me. I didn't realize they actually analyzed Titan. That's actually incredible.
Ethane form, which is much more complicated hydrocarbon, is whole ocean of it. Because Titan is in such a way that it's very cold, by the way, so it's minus 290 degree Fahrenheit.
Yes.
Hint, hint, hint. Where's the global warming there, right? If it's full of methane there, right? That's another problem because it's far away from the sun.
I like that. Hint, hint, hint. I'm sorry, that was just too funny to pass up. But yeah, wow, a whole ocean. And where is the global warming? Where is the carbon emissions? Hmm.
That's what it is.
Yes.
And clearly that the question of abiogenic method, which means no need of any biology, is true. Because we know, actually one experiment was done in 2009. It was done in Swedish Royal Academy, one of those group, but it's done by one Russian leader. He was able to show that if you squeeze methane, CH4 in chemical formula, so 4 hydrogen, 1 carbon, squeeze them in a form that in which they simulate the condition of the Earth mantle, which is 1,800 miles deep, kind of below the surface, because the Earth is deeper, right? And it's within this 18, but basically the condition that is only about 40 to 150 miles in, that you actually can form complex hydrocarbon. You got benzene, you got ethane, you got all this other stuff forming. So that proved beyond doubt that you have such a way to make this. Plus that Titan proved beyond doubt. You actually see methane also in all the atmosphere of Jupiter. You even find benzene in the rocks of Mars. And then for me, astrophysicist, I can tell you even more. You find this complex hydrocarbon called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon. It's another one of those complex hydrocarbon that actually you found it in interstellar space within stars, intergalactic space. These are everywhere because temperature there are cold and probably the right pressure condition. All this complex hydrocarbons.
Well, it's kind of incredible because all of us, and including myself until very recently,
right,
assumed that all of our main energy sources are these so-called fossil fuels, and of course their existence is going to be limited by the amount of fossils, by the amount of decaying organic material.
Not so.
I will put up my hand and say yes, I will admit that. I will admit that. So we have been made fools of by the powers that be. Anyway, moving on.
So if that's not so, then we need to rethink a lot of things.
A lot. I think this one fit into a paradigm by a famous economist that I like very much. His name is Simon. Do you know about this guy named Simon? Julian Simon, yeah, the key guy, University of Illinois and then Maryland. He was the guy who said that the ultimate resource of humanity or Earth is actually not all this material thing like uranium, gold, because uranium, there are far more uranium in the oceans than on the land, right? You have 4.5 billion tons of uranium in the ocean. You have only 17 million tons of that. Gold, copper. What do you want on the ocean? It's all there, except they're in very dilute form.
Yes.
Clearly. So the ultimate resource actually is not that, it's the human mind. It's the innovation part of it. I think I like that principle a lot. And it fits very well in terms of saying that it's all matter of cost, even oil.
Yep. This is exactly correct. This is exactly correct. The only limitation is the human mind. And we are living it. He says it so well. By the God Emperor. Yep, limited by the human mind. And that all this red tape. All this red tape that is just absolutely squeezing the life out of us. Life can be so much more easier without all this red tape and all these silly tosses, and it's ridiculous. It is beyond ridiculous how easy things can be. It's just because the powers that be don't want us to live easy. It's got to be more or less just greed. They just want to squeeze the life out of us. I don't want to fix problems. I just want to make things problem. Like, I'm sorry, Elon Musk, but we've known for a long time that Teslas were useless. Sorry.
I don't know if any of you know, the audience know that 50 to 60% of all the oil that you already drilled, the drill hole, you can only pull out 40 to 50% of it. 60% of that remains in it. simply because there's not enough pressure to get it out.
Yes.
This is why the idea of abiogenic oil is interesting, is true.
So that's interesting. So it's probably naturally Top Gun can't talk. It's probably naturally on its own replenishing itself by whatever resources are down there. So that's actually quite interesting. So it's a slow process, but I imagine slowly over time, the oil reserves that they're currently digging is slowly building up over time. And it's not the result of dead dinosaurs or dead plant matter, because that type of stuff wouldn't last. So certainly we have been fed a BS lie. But why they want to try and pull this shenanigans on us? Who knows? Who knows?
True, clearly true. It's all matter of cost, really, because this thing has to form way inside the Earth, the mantle, which is 50 to 100 miles, right? Human, how deep have we ever drilled? Only the skin, which is only 5 miles maximum, 5 to 6 miles basically. That's at most.
I thought there was the super hole in Russia that went down 12 kilometers. I don't know. Someone tell me if someone knows the actual measurements. I might look it up later. Someone tell me in the comment section, because I thought it was only like 12 kilometers. Because apparently when you drill down further, obviously it gets hot because Earth's got an iron core, an active iron core. So, who knows? If someone knows, let me know in the comment section.
That we can drill, and then all this stuff had to permeate into the reservoir. I got this information from the top people that physically have to look for oil every day. One of my friends, Joseph Lime Cooler from Beacon Energy, offshore energy. Those are the guys who work day in and day out to bring us the energy, actually, the oil that we need.
So why don't most people know this? Why do most people think that the gasoline in their car was, by definition,
Have to be limited?
Yeah, that there's just a tiny amount and it's going away. We'll never find more.
The world is full of untruth and half-truths, right? That's the whole problem, right? That's why for so long, even the idea that we are not limited and bounded by availability of, let's say, gasoline, petroleum, or coal. Coal now, they won't allow us to use, right? As you know, in COP meeting in Dubai that just ended a day ago, they just physically declared themselves that we should stop using fossil fuel. Basically, petroleum, natural gas, and even coal. I mean, these people are insane now, really insane. I think they're going to harm more people with their own delusion. Plus, they always remember, these are people who actually don't represent the majority. No. Since when are this put up to vote? It's always about this minority, the tyranny of the few, always robbing the whole census, the good census of the good people. This is part of the reason why, as a scientist, I also speak out. Not afraid of anything except for just telling the truth. And I'm glad to have this opportunity to say such thing in your show.
So, I mean, if we haven't been told the truth about where hydrocarbons come from,
right,
and we haven't, I mean, I've never met a single person in my life who said, wait a second, they're not all fossil fuels, then we keep hearing there's a scientific consensus on climate change. Every scientist believes the same thing about it, believes Al Gore and John Kerry. Maybe that's not true either?
Oh, that I can tell you, please. Thank you for asking that question, Tucker. I've been working on this subject of...
Oh, thank you for asking. That's... Oh my goodness, that is hilarious. All right, sorry. Let's continue.
CO2 causing climate change, or what other factors we can ask that cause climate to change? For close to, as long as since my postdoctoral year, 1991, right? So it's about 32 years. And on this question, I think we have a very definitive answer. What we know now is CO2 ain't gonna cost nothing. It's not gonna change much of the climatic system, which means it won't change the speed of the hurricane. It won't change how fast or how frequent tornado form. It won't even actually make any difference to the polar bear population. It's all conservation issue, right, on polar bear. It won't even cause how much fish you don't catch, you know. It won't even cause what they call ocean acidification. It won't even cause this problem that they claim. It's all artificial. Everything they do, it's all dream from their model and the tyranny of the few again. That those few people just dream up this scary story that it just ain't true. And then when you come down to the most responsible group for this kind of bad stuff, I was reminded by my colleague, Dr. Ronan Connolly and Michael Connolly, my two co-workers with me on my group, is to say that since I work so carefully and I have about more.
I'll stop him there. Like, we've known it for quite some time, and I imagine people around the world have known this for quite some time. Like, it's not getting hot. It's not getting hotter. And for those climate nuts who are saying, "Oh, what about the glaciers?" It's like, and he'll mention this before, and he'll mention this in a minute. Oh, probably not in the same words that I will, but you do realize the glaciers are not permanent. Like, that is just the byproduct of the last ice age. That is the byproduct of the last ice age. Like, don't expect them to hang around forever. Which is, yeah. Like, the temperature, what he said, the tornado's not going to get faster. We're not going to get these superstorms or anything like that. The temperature won't even change. It's, yeah. He'll explain later why we're getting these different weather patterns, and to the ignorant, do you expect to get the same weather year after year? Like, do you? You don't get it like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 20 years ago, we're going to get the exact same temperature that we did 20 years ago. Anyway. Yeah, and what he said, it is all artificial. Like, dumping, like chemical dumping and everything like that, and the actual physical pollution, yes, that we have to maintain, that we have to clean, that we have to make sure we package up, bottle up, or process it so it becomes harmless. Yes, but carbon, this carbon pollution thing, never even existed.
More than 100 scientists the last 3 years alone working with me. So I don't speak on behalf of them, I speak on behalf of myself. My view is that the UNIPCC, United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is one of the primary problems, which means they have been misleading people. They've been using authority of science, which is not true, right? It's all governmental hackers, basically, right? People like John Kerry, who I guess can barely take a proper physics class, who keep claiming that greenhouse effect is so simple, right? And then he refused to explain how does it work, right? I mean, he did all of that is very terrible. That really embarrassing to America. He did that in Bali in Indonesia several years back. That is just so embarrassing.
Do you think he can explain how it works?
No, I don't think so. Even Al Gore, who claimed to know something about science, I challenge Al Gore. I did some of that in his face, actually. I was lucky enough to be in one of those Wall Street Journal eco conference, and I was giving, setting up with all the UC Santa Barbara students. Please make sure when the question comes out, give me the mic. I was making friends with them the night before. I explained now my details of my work. So I got the mic and I asked questions about Al Gore, because one of the primary sad things that they refuse to recognize, that I know you know that in even grade school sciences, CO2 is a gas of life. When you have more CO2.
See, this is something I never knew. Like, I knew CO2 or carbon gets absorbed by plants and quite other bit of life forms of plant matter, or form of plants. So this is something I didn't even know, but now I know it as carbon, as the gas of life. So it was actually an eye opener for me as well. It's like, wow.
The plant kingdom, the whole ecology, even the oceans, gonna have more, basically, ability, more fishes, more everything.
More life.
More life, essentially. That's why it's called gas of life. And these people want to demonize it as some gas that can cause global warming, can cause hurricane to run faster or weaker. I don't know what they want. To have more rain, more droughts, and all this other nonsense that they claim. All of that, it just ain't so. That's the problem. By the way, this is how serious I am. I check everything they say. I check. As a scientist, you cannot just dismiss them. You cannot laugh at them. You cannot, chide them. You cannot just make joke of them. You check everything. So as a very serious scientist, and I publish scientific paper refuting all of these arguments. Scientific papers maybe mean nothing to the average people, but it's really important. It's like a document that you have to document and then put out the proper scientific arguments about what is right, what is wrong. So that's what we have been doing at my particular center called series-sign.com. So anybody who wants more information about this, please go to the website, right? And study what we do there, because it's like a document that you have to document. And then
I'll put on text to see if anyone wants to explore any more information what he has just said, just then.
Put out the proper scientific arguments about what is right, what is wrong. So that's what we have been doing at my particular center called series-sign.com. So anybody who wants more information about this, please go to the website, right? And study what we do there, because we are the one that is truly independent from any funding agency, any money that you could possibly give me, like Bill Gates, please don't give me money, thank you. And Al Gore, please don't give me money. Don't give me any money if you tell me what to do. You know, even some of your money, I might not want it. But the point is that I want to be independent, just like you. In the media, I want to be fearless. I just set my own agenda. You don't tell me what to research either. I research what I want to research. So we've been researching on many, many topics. So on the climate change issue, I'm fully convinced. After all these years, even though we may not know exactly what is causing climate change, we suspect it's the sun. We have a lot of evidence to show that it's probably the sun. Very high percentage, you know, like I would say 90% we're sure, but not 100%. But we know carbon dioxide is not the gas, it's not the what you call like your thermometer in your room can adjust up and down, that you can set the temperature to be whatever level you want it. First of all, they can never tell us what temperature do they want it at. What is
That's right. They can never tell us what they wanted at. That's right. It's either we're all dead or we're all doomed. The sun. I know I've heard this before, but it is very interesting. Well, it is a big fireball of gas or reactive gas. So it's interesting. Anyway, moving on.
What is the temperature you want to set the global temperature? Al Gore has not been able to answer that. John Kerry has not been able to answer that. Because we know the temperature from the coldest in Siberia to the desert in Sahara. I mean, these are huge, at least 100 degrees or more kind of differences.
Yes.
I mean, who are you to tell me which temperature is the correct temperature where you guys are talking like that? They are talking as if they are pseudo-God, they're God themselves. I mean, these people are so ambitious that in some sense, I think we have to keep their ambition down a little bit. I mean, these people are not contented, just like what you put out there. You cannot be ambitious when you're contented, but these people are so out of their mind in some sense that I think is misleading. And somebody had to speak out against them. I think you are one of those who consistently point out their hypocrisy, right? And I really find that the whole problem of this global warming is a complete nothing, which means we should do nothing about it. Just go on and live life and adapt to it, right?
So of course I agree completely, but here's what I don't understand. Global temperatures have dramatically fluctuated within the period that humans left records. I mean, not that long ago. I mean, there are cities underwater because sea levels have risen within recorded history.
Mm-hmm.
The signs of the glaciers are all around us.
Yes.
So that was all before the internal combustion engine. How do they explain that?
This is the problem. They admitted. A lot of them admitted. They willingly admitted. You can read all.
Well, you can't deny it. I mean, we had glaciers and then they melted because of global warming.
They are forced to confess. I mean, these are the confession time. It's the sun actually that does a lot of this. The glacier, like there's a period called Little Ice Age.
Yeah.
You know, from about 1300 to 1900, right? You know, very cold. And then there's a medieval warm period from 880 to about 1200. You know, it was warm. I mean, you can grow wine in England, right? And now you cannot grow wine, right? Things like that. I mean, Greenland was green back then, but now it's full of glaciers. Ice is coming in. So what are you talking about exactly? And it was the sun, actually. The sun fit quite well. As far as we know, in terms of deducing the information of how does the sun, how bright was it, how dim was it? Basically, just like that. Just the amount of light coming out from the sun. Very tiny percentage, by the way. Very small. It's on the order of less than 1%, but it's more than enough because there's another effect that is very, very important. It's basically because the Earth is forced to go around the sun, and then the orbit change ever so slightly because of perturbation from all the other planets.
Yes.
Jupiter, Saturn, and even Venus and Mars, they are actually controlling what we do. And the moon, of course, is very important. But that other factors, the orbits, plus the changes of the sun by itself, between how bright, how dim it is, these two factors can explain just about everything that we know. All the data that I have, actually. So I've been this is why I was so fascinated in studying this issue. I spent my whole life actually studying this. Nothing but doing just this. And the more I understand, the more I think that, wow, it's just a gap to be filled in. We have too much information and then these people come along, say that CO2 is causing everything. I check. Oh, maybe they're right. I check. As a scientist, I have to check them. But then it's not even close. I mean, these people are talking about things that is, I mean, there's a famous phrase by a very famous Wisconsin meteorologist. His name is Professor Reed Bryson. He's one of the father of climatology, really. He just say that you go out and then you might as well, if you think CO2 is so, you might as well spit into the air and see what happened to the airflow. He was just basically saying that CO2 is nothing, cannot cause the climate to change or anything. It doesn't change anything, actually. It's the sun. Why you think the most important things that you should talk about, they never talk about that. They always want to average the data. The most important thing they should talk about, you know what? It's the season. No two winters are the same. No two summers are the same. And
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, no season will ever be the same. It will never be the same. It'll be a consistent one time and then not consistent the next year. It is the
they never explain that. It's actually the orbits with the sun changing it ever so slightly. And I'm not talking. I have published papers like that on all this to show and document why and how. That's what the fun part of doing science. It's not only chit-chatting, hand-waving like crazy. You have to be, even though I may look like one now, but I am always very calm when you write down. Every time I have to write a paper, I always tell my wife, please, don't disturb me for a few days. I'll be back. Things like that. Of course, working at home, but I'll be back.
So is there any way to predict what climate change will be based on
Actually, you can because of the orbit. The only thing we don't know is how to predict the sun changes by itself because the magnetism, just the magnetic field on the sun is too complicated. The sun...
Okay, so that's a little bit more. Now we actually see that there are far greater forces around us that can affect us, and to be honest, I'll put my GoFundMe thing down below in the description below if anyone wants to do it. There's greater threats than just what we are belching, farting, especially when it comes to the cat. Oh, the poor cattle industry. I feel so sorry for the buggers in the UK and Europe. Oh my goodness. Well, just the cattle industry in general, because they're trying to bloody destroy their livelihoods, and I feel you've got to feel sorry for the farmers. Like even right now in Australia, I can't remember who it was. Some dickhead in Australia that where I am right now is trying to. I'd have to ask my cousin because he's a farmer. They're trying to stop the sale of a certain class of tractor that with certain emissions. And the thing is, a lot of farmers, like, especially where I work, like, the farmers where I work, they've got old tractors that are older than me, but they are some of the best, toughest tractors, any better than any of these modern things, and they're the most stable. But the thing is, it's got an old engine. Some of them don't even have filters. Some of them don't have the cats on them. But they're the best, toughest tanks ever. Well, tractors. So, and something came through that they're not allowed to sell or supply parts to certain tractors anymore. And so they expect farmers to get all these new tractors. It's like, well, with what money? This is not a natural disaster. We don't. Well, then again, Australian government doesn't cover Australian farmers like in the slightest. They'll spit out. I won't even get into that subject. Long story short, it's 40 billion a year, and its money should be put somewhere else better than looking after the accidents. Anyway, but yeah, and they're expecting all these farmers to have all this magical money just whipping out of their pockets. It's like, anyway, off topic. Yeah, moving on.
It's the magnetized ball, right? It's a gas.
Well, sorry, I should say, yeah, I'll put my GoFundMe down below, and it's to help. Well, the ultimate goal is that I want to build enough funds to, number one, and he'll explain it down the line what I would like to do, because once we get this built, it will shut up the globalists. Well, it won't shut them up. It will just make them go 10 times faster in terms of being an absolute pain in the ass. Stop all protesters will become even more annoying. But the thing is, I do want to build better lives for us. I do, undermining all of them that are trying to ruin it for us. I'll build for us, and the ultimate goal, and as I said in the end, the ultimate goal in the end, it explains in my GoFundMe video that I have on GoFundMe, sorry. It's like, I do want to be alongside Elon Musk to prepare the mankind for, well, the last frontier. And hey, it'd be a cool goal if I can get to Mars and back. Or even establish, well, obviously there's going to be a colony, but hell, it's a second place to live. Because there's forces out there in the universe that will destroy us. And it's always, and to be honest, it's been a while. We've spent enough time on Mother Earth, and like with all creatures, I think it's time we grow up and ship out. Anyway, I'll do more talking about the GoFundMe at the end of the video.
As hot gas, it's about, the magnetic field is so strong, it's 10,000 times stronger than the Earth. The Earth is also a magnet, a bar magnet, basically.
Yes.
It's 1 Gauss, we have 10,000 Gauss at least on the sun. So it's a very different property, and it works very differently because it heated by basically a thermonuclear reaction inside the sun. So it created all kinds of hot gas behavior that's very difficult to try to master or even to model using mathematical equation. Actually, it's much easier to study the Earth than to do the sun. So that's part of the problem in scientific tasks, the physics task. They're very difficult. But then we learn a lot. We learn a lot through just watching the sun. I mean, Galileo Galilei, right? He pointed his telescope. He was smart enough. First, he pointed to Jupiter, the moon, right? Jupiter, then he saw the moon, right? He saw 4 moons around it. And then he's smart that he go the next day to watch it again. He watched and then he started to move. By the way, it's a famous story of Galileo Galilei. We'll talk about it someday. When he wrote that down, initially it was in Italian. When he realized he discovered something so unique, he changed the language to Latin. And the next day, yeah, I got it, man, the good one. So he started writing in Latin, precise language, okay? But anyway, for the sun, it's really so complicated that actually I've been studying this actually as long as you know me. I mean, I studied this for so long. We know a lot. I even wrote a popular book actually to try to explain why that during a period of the sunspot, so Galileo Galilei started in 1609, 1610 or so. So we have about now 413 years of data. But there's a period that deep inside the Little Ice Age, 1645 to 1715, is called the Maunder Minimum. Because during that period, the sunspot almost all disappear, especially in the northern hemisphere. It disappeared completely. Nobody knows why. And that's why the French astronomer, famous people like Cassini, the Cassini spacecraft, he was observing at that time. He said, man, this Galileo guy must be on either drinking too much or lying or things like that. He said there's a lot of sunspots, but we observe at this time, we didn't see nothing. What's wrong? But it's an actual phenomenon, right? My good friend, which is the #1 world sunspot historian, he just wrote email to me, Douglas Hoyt. He actually was the master of this, collecting all the sunspot data, going back to all the major libraries, from Galileo first point all the way to present point. basically found that this phenomenon is true because during that period, the sunspot was not there, not because nobody was watching. There was at least observed 80% of the time during the 70 years. You see, it's so unique, that period. But now we're beginning to try to learn what happened there. So during that period, we really think that the sun was so much dimmer, was substantially dimmer. This is why you have this little ice age phenomenon. All the Thames River were froze. You know, we have the Thames River in England, well known, and then all the ice skating thing, you know, in Holland, all the different culture.
Huh. And there's been quite a few ice ages in our Earth's history, or our planet's history. Cool.
And then these are all real, actual phenomena. And then this day they're trying to say that maybe little ice age is not little ice age. They even try to change that in scientific field, actually. So this was very, very puzzling for me.
Why would they try and change that?
Oh, I don't know, because they want to say that CO2 is controlling everything. They kind of want to have CO2 as the prime driver of everything. This is part of the problem that I find.
Well, that's not science, that's lying.
It's bad. It's bad in science. This is why in science now, I rather say this thing outright. I rather have question that cannot be answered than answer that cannot be questioned. Because these people are just offering you the answer and then you should just shut up, like you say. Don't ask any question.
Yep. Don't ask the question. Don't ask the question. The answer's already been given to you. Bloody spot on, this bloke. Spot on. Jeez.
Don't criticize. Don't even bother to think. Just accept what we say. I mean, you may have known that this, actually, if you want to get there, I can talk about this because this is rather famous because the other person is still around. He's the one who's shouting up and down these last 2 days to say that, oh, we must stop fossil fuel. GOP is so evil. We must stop all of them because GOP are the evil political bodies in America that causes all this fossil fuel we are using fossil fuel and all that. His name is Professor Michael Mann. He's at University of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
He created a paper, we call it a hockey stick. You know?
Yes.
The stick paper.
The hockey stick.
He basically say that the temperature history, first of all, the true temperature history looked like this. That it was very warm from 800 AD, let's say warm, and then it cools down, about 1300 started to go down, cool. And then since about 1900th century, it started to warm back up. Way before CO2 is important, okay? That's another puzzle that they never want to explain. That look like this. That's the real story. Michael Mann came along, said that, well, he used mathematical algorithm, okay? You can use fancy words, but believe me, it's just mathematical algorithm, that he produced a stick for 880 to about 1980 is all flat because it changed. It changed very tiny amount. So small that actually it doesn't mean anything. 0.1 or 0.2 degrees Celsius, so small. It doesn't mean, the one that I talk about, the change is 1 degree at least, you know, so 5-6 times bigger than what he say. And then he just say it like this, and then it warm up because of the blade, which is the warming because of rising carbon dioxide. But he forgot to explain to you, this warming of the temperature started way before even the human part of the atmospheric carbon dioxide could be anything meaningful. This is part of the problem. It's all been crazy from day one. When this thing was published in 1999, I was the first few guy who raised a hand at the back of the class and say, excuse me, Professor Mann, he used to be my friend, by the way. Now he will never answer me. He used to exchange email with me because, you know, we more or less share the same passion, want to understand things. Now he just say that his story is the only one that is correct. But it's not bared out by any data that we know. That's the problem. It's all mathematical products. This is how scary the whole world can be.
Wow. So, good friends turn to bitter enemies because he'll say it in a minute.
And United Nations, the IPCC group that I mentioned, promoted his work, turning him into a major hero because he has solved one of these old puzzle problem that climatologists over millennia has been trying to solve since the day of the Greeks to try to understand how climate change. And this guy come along say that it look like this, only CO2 does it. And that's the problem.
So, I mean,
it just ain't so.
Some of this is very complex, but in the way you're describing it, if he's saying the warming period began before there was a meaningful addition of CO2 into the atmosphere caused by humans.
Yes.
Even I can understand that.
Yes,
Right.
that's the truth.
So I would assume that lots of scientists who do this for a living might be asking the same question. Why don't they speak up?
This is the problem. The whole problem in science this day is related to funding, how science is funded. That philosophy, I wish to not get too much into it. This is part of the reason why I want to be totally independent. I get out of this whole system, right? But it's how science is about funding. Even if you don't get money directly, it will influence the graduate students and on and so forth. All these other related effects, you know? And many people are afraid to speak out. But I tell you, if you really put all the scientists to an honest kind of polling, if it's science, but science is not about polling too. All it takes is one to be correct.
Yes.
That's the problem, right? Einstein used to, when he formulated the famous general relativity or special relativity, actually, that was criticized. That basically talk about speed of light is constant. So time and space are relative,
Yes.
right? Time can be dilated. Space is also slightly different because the speed of light is constant. Special relativity is based on that concept. Then 100 of these Berlin academicians try to write a pamphlet, say that Einstein is wrong, but never offer why. What is the details that is wrong? And then Einstein indeed answered like this. Why would you need 100? You know, if I were to be wrong, one would suffice. I mean, that's the theme of the science. Science is so bad because it's so totally upside down, inside out. COVID is another case, you know. So let's stick to climate stuff. People are afraid to speak out. I don't know why, actually. I was young. I had to worry about my 3 kids, where they eat and all that stuff. You know, buffet all the time, just kidding. The greatest American invention. All you can eat. This is truly entrepreneur, by the way. Anyway, we have enough food. No problem. That's why food, I don't think, is also a problem in this world. Even material resources, right? All you think is have to think like Julian Simon type.
That's another one. That is another one. One of the towns in the hills, the Adelaide Hills in South Australia, used to be one of the biggest producers of vegetables ever, but costs went up, red tape went up, supermarkets started screwing farmers. Like, producing food should be one of the easiest things to do, but because of the red taping, it's become hard. And the only ones that are probably struggling to survive today is probably orchards and probably vineyards, because the powers that be love their wine. I love their expensive orchards. That's to be one thing that should not be expensive to produce, and leave the farmers alone, because we all need food. We all need it. But powers that be think there's always going to be someone else who's going to come along and undercut everything. Oh, side note, Coles and Woolworths, here's a funny one for you, told all the farmers to try and halve their production costs, and they're just like, are you serious? I'd be thinking of going somewhere else besides from Coles and Woolies. Just a side note.
You know, we can generate everything. The only problem we have is lack of imagination, narrow-mindedness, and all this anti-America sentiment, put it this way. America is among the best hope for humanity, you know, to put forward. We have the foundation document, the Constitution, for God's sake. That is the most beautiful thing that we could ever imagine. And why don't we use it properly, right? People are just trashing on it every day, right? Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so yes, I think science is a problem now because of funding structure. People won't speak out. I don't know why. I think it's natural for people to be afraid, but you can only be afraid for so long. For me, I was frustrated because I was not afraid ever since I was in science. Because I'm in science because I love science. This is why, from my own perspective, I'm just very sad to see that science is being trampled by all these other non-science forces, you know. That's why when I look at COVID also, I cannot stand by and say nothing. On COVID-19, there's so many things wrong with it. That's why I want to pre-advertise. With my group, series.science.com, we work with a bunch of people. One of the good guests for you, potential, will be Professor Harvey Rich. He said he's been interviewed by you twice.
Yes.
Even guys like Bob Malone, we work together, produce a paper. So when the paper come out, hopefully we can have them on your show so that they can tell more story. We want to provide the medical community or even the world to document this episode of dark ages in medical sciences. Something went terribly wrong. The mask never really worked. The vaccine never really worked. All of this doesn't work. The lockdown doesn't work. And what are we doing this? Now they are trying to scare with another news scare all over the world now. Newspaper. This morning I just got one newspaper from my sister who has to start, they start masking up in Malaysia now because cases started to increase. The usual story. I laugh in a serious way because I see this is another one of those attempts again to try to scare people. So I did digress now. Science is just so complicated now that every aspect of the science that I look at, I've become very unhappy. Science is no longer able to do where science lead.
Well, look at the look at the mentally broken, and you know what I mean.
This is the theme of my series, that's science.com. With few only colleagues, I don't have enough funding. I just hope to get as many donations, by the way. Donate, but don't tell us anything, do anything. Trust us because we are decent scientists. You can look at our publication.
I'll put a side note here. If anyone is willing to obviously go to my GoFundMe, I'll be more than happy to supply funding to this dude just to do good science work. And well, hopefully there is a better future around the corner. Hopefully. But anyway, side note, if you guys are willing to help me, I'll definitely, if you guys want to definitely help out on my GoFundMe to fix the world, then I definitely will provide funding for him. Good man.
Record that we are able to produce the most interesting and pure work. Like IPCC, they have to reply to us. 2 years ago, we published a very important paper. One of my journalist friend, a colleague, wrote a paper, newspaper article, and then he go and ask IPCC, why are you guys not citing this paper? They use the excuse to say that, oh, these people publish late. We have a deadline here, red line. Or if you don't publish before some date, like 2021, okay, like January or 2021, then we won't include your work. So we publish in August, so they wouldn't include my work. But they forgot to say that they claim themselves, they proclaim, UN IPCC proclaim themselves to be the best of the scientific world, produce the most updated and all that. But immediately, their report came out, they're already outdated because they haven't included my work, which is the most comprehensive review of how the sun affects the climate. That's the work we did. So this year, just 2 months ago, we published 2 more papers convincingly show that even the thermometer data that they show you is not what it is. It's actually not measuring climate. It's measuring urban heat island changes. Something that I think everybody can understand. If you go to the inner part of the big city, like TC is one of the best examples. I have graph to show that. You go there, inner city is much warmer than outside because of concrete retaining all the heat, or you change all the surfaces of the surface become impervious, which means there's no breathing, no water going in and out, things like that. And it's what we show is that it's not a phenomenon just on local science. You average over this, you can see the effect all over the northern hemisphere. This is very powerful new work that we
So
spend.
concrete and asphalt raise the temperatures more than CO2.
And that's what they're measuring. And then they tell you this is global temperature. And then we provide an alternative. We say, why don't we go look at rural station that is available? And guess what our result found? Completely different story from the picture, the narrative that's coming out from this data set. The moment
So, instead of actually having proper weather stations out in the middle of the sticks, obviously they do, they don't take the actual measurements. They actually take the measurements where it's extremely hot, and they go, oh look, it's different from buddy such and such time ago. Oh, it's hot. It's like the biggest thing I've always hear. Like, I don't even watch the news anymore. I only hear about it when people who actually do watch news. Oh, hottest year on record. It's the hottest it's ever been. It's like, what? Like, it was that temperature like for one day last year. What are you talking about? I'm getting sick and tired of it.
thermometer data that show that combine urban and rural. Okay, we show rural only. We can tell you that you can immediately offer a different answer. For example, it's the sun that does it. We show that. But we don't know that is the answer. We just simply show you that the IPCC and all these so-called scientists from NASA, NOAA, and all of them are not doing their due diligence. They are putting you very bad quality data product. Not only that, they hide it. Some of them is so difficult to get the data. Okay?
But it should never be difficult to get data.
I'm sorry, Tucker. This is how the problem in science now is so many serious.
But I thought transparency of data was science.
I was hoping. I always believe in that. That's why everything that we publish is there. Because we got it from somewhere. Here's the data. Use it. Check us. If we're wrong, tell us we're wrong. That is one thing that I can always promise you. I'm not here to try to gain favor or anything. If I'm wrong and I don't know, I tell you I don't know, Tucker. A lot of this thing, I really under a lot of careful consideration, really a lot of deep meditation, thinking about this topic. What I think is very problematic, I'm so glad to have this opportunity to go this far, to be able to talk for this long now, is that really the IPCC product is actually substandard. Of course, they have a different mandate. Their mandate is political, right? To provide policy. We understand that. But how many people really understand that pure science doesn't support anything they say? I mean, in the beginning of this COP28 meeting, the chairman, or this guy from UAE, United Arab Emirates, the chairman, I don't know his name, Sultan Al-Jaber or something, he was saying that there's no scientific reasoning to say that we should phase out fossil fuels. He's right. But then he backed off because of all this, everybody's herd mentality, everybody's doing the mad thing. Everybody.
That's probably the best way to put it. Like, just stop help. Oh, that is the best method ever. Yes, herd mentality. I wonder if I should get a shirt. I wonder if I should get a shirt made up. It's like, I'm not part of the herd. Oh my goodness.
Science is not about that. They all agree now. They all agree to phase out, right? For some kind of agreement. You know, that everybody declare that they're going to do that they're going to phase out. I don't even know how, actually. Why? Why are you doing this? And then one of the claims is that they're going to triple the amount of solar and wind power. That is a sad story. You know, of the amount that we spend that we can document, some $3.6 trillion. They spent almost $2 trillion on solar and wind power over the last, 5-10 years or so. And then what they did is that they spent more of the money, $2 trillion on solar and wind. And solar and wind can only account for only 3% of the world power, 85% from fossil fuel, as you can see.
Wow, 3%. And here's a side note to those. Was it this year? Yes, it was this year at the Adelaide show. I was working at the Apple stand, and I happened to come across some cattle station owners from Wyoming. I'm thinking, wow, that's like one of those rare occurrences. It's like, oh, you guys are from Wyoming, nice. And anyway, we were chatting away, and one of my uncles had been to what do they call, Washington, Seattle, the actual, not Washington D.C., Washington, Seattle, so just below Canada on the west coast there, where they have the big massive apple orchards. Anyway, I won't go into detail what they did. Let's just say it was very naughty. Anyway, they were telling us that they are currently burying Barack Obama's time in office, the wind turbines that he put up. They're burying them now in Wyoming as landfill because you can't recycle them. You can't recycle anything from these wind turbines. So they're currently dismantling and destroying, or I imagine they've done that part, but they're probably they're currently burying them right now in Wyoming. There's a side note for you. That's how useless and Barack Obama wasn't that far away. It does not last. Solar and wind power does not last. It's a joke.
Hydropower and nuclear. Nuclear is another puzzle. I checked with all my nuclear expert friends that have been working for years on nuclear power. Nuclear power is one of the saddest stories. I believe that we actually have almost a solution in hand. Not the fusion, of course. It's the the fast reactor, or the good generation of nuclear power, peaceful use of that, won't even generate nuclear weapon. We can do all of that technology. The only thing barrier is red tapes, environmentally scared of radiation. All these are the problem. We almost have all of that in hand. The power can last. One estimate shows that if we were to use it at the demand of that by 2050, we can have enough power for 2,700 years.
All right, confession time. That's my goal. I'm going to say it now. That is my goal. There is this stigma, 60s phobia of nuclear energy for the longest time. Now, everyone thinks when you hear nuclear, weapons, bombs. It's not the case. Like where I live currently in Australia, we've got the biggest deposit of uranium in the world. The biggest. But see, it's not weapon grade. It's reactor grade. You can't make weapons from it. You can make tank armor and probably projectile weapons. So yeah, probably some of it can be used as a weapon, but you can't use it as a nuclear weapon. And there's very little really like today's technology in terms of the radiation. It's very minimal, like with current today's technology. And with advanced monitoring systems, and we know how to contain uranium, there's not going to be another Chernobyl or anything like that. Like, yeah, radiation, yeah. Look, we've said this for years, miners and experts. Like, you heard them. It could almost be almost 3,000 years, well, 2,700 years of energy. Nearly 3 millennia. Nearly 3 millennia. I don't know about you, but what are we doing? That's what I would like to do. That's what I like to do in Australia. But there's, I'll just go back because I need to recap.
That's far more than any of the fossil fuel can promise. One estimate shows that if we environmentally scared of radiation, generate nuclear weapon, we can do all of that technology. The only thing barrier is red tapes. Environmentally scared of radiation.
Because that's one other thing is red tape. Red tape is the killer. Like there was one estimate I saw on the new like on when I researched it up. Oh, a nuclear power station going to cost us $300 billion. Is that the actual true estimate? Is that actually the true estimate to build a nuclear reactor? And I did a bit of digging, and it's actually far cheaper. It is far cheaper, and it pays back tenfold. It pays lifetimes. It pays. It pays almost 3,000. It almost pays 30 lifetimes back. And this is in the same thing. What does he say?
All these are the problem. We almost have all of that in.
And the radiation and all that. Like you gotta remember, like we don't like. There's very few places in the world that has weapon grade plutonium, or in this case uranium, that creates nuclear weapons. Like you gotta remember, it is a rare resource. It is a rare resource. And you know what? It'd be amazing to fire up. It would be amazing. It would solve the power crisis right now. Reduce costs. It's just removing of the red tape. Radiation is minimal. They can even contain the off fuel on the nuclear reactors themselves. They even got them in Canada that contain the fuel themselves in heavy water that stops the nuclear reaction and lets them go through the period of their lifespan, and then they're not radioactive anymore, and we can use it. We can use the metal. They don't like, and the other common misguiding false information they like to produce, that these uranium control rods, which is a metal, it is a metal that can ooze this yellow stuff. Now, that is weapon grade plutonium. That is weapon grade. The stuff that they had to clean up after the nuclear test and after the drops of the nuclear bombs. That's the stuff they had to physically scrape off the ground and contain it so it doesn't ooze. Yes, that is the weapon grade. It doesn't happen with reactor grade.
Hand. The power can last. One estimate shows that if we were to use it at the demand of that by 2050, we can have enough power for 2,700 years. That's far more than any of the fossil fuel can promise. And we're still not doing it. We're not doing. America is so far behind now. We just make one in Georgia, one of the nuclear plant, that's so overcost because of all the red tape. That is so embarrassing. Their numbers. I mean, it costing 1,000 or 2,000 times even more than what Korea, and even Korea now is a major guy who make this nuclear power plant for different any country who wants to do it, right? I mean,
well, that's good. At least I can actually. Well, hey, if this GoFundMe goes ahead, at least I know which company to call up now. If there's a company in South Korea that is willing to build nuclear reactors, personally, I would like to shake the hand of Japanese engineers. But hey, if South Korea can do it, then why not?
Korea, India, they are making it at much cheaper cost. And the design, French designs are the best, right? French, they're all doing that. And we're not doing it. China, of course, left and right doing that. But we're not doing anything. Oh, we tried to tell you that we're going to shut off fossil fuel. Increase solar and wind. Are you joking? Even 3 times more will be 9%. I don't know. Can you turn on your light only 9% of the time? You should shut all this light off now. You're overusing it.
And it destroys the actual environment.
Exactly.
Wind farms.
This is a kind of a very bad incentive that they don't realize. It's about this kind of people that is so out of their mind, in my view, that they really should be cautious. Somebody should just ping on their head. Guys, don't keep saying those things. You better think twice. Or consult somebody that knows something that is honest,
You spent 31 years at Harvard. Would you be able to say this out loud at Harvard?
Actually, back then I also didn't care, but most of the time I get called into the director's office, this and that. They're always trying to tell, oh, why are you saying that? Why are you saying this? I say, well, I'm a scientist. I should say whatever I want to say. Not only that, the problem when I was at Harvard, part of the reason I quit, as I try to explain, is about JAB requirement, but another one is a bit of censorship. I can only do certain thing, I cannot do certain thing. Like I would never be able to write paper on COVID-19. I would never be able to work on, let's say, environmental air pollution issues, so-called NOx or SOx and all this other thing, or mercury and things like that. I study a lot on those issues because I personally are concerned, so I dig into the literature, one thing after another, basically because I sleep very little, so I really do a lot of things. I flip every rock, pebbles, anything you want. So I study a lot. I produce a result that is good enough that can be making a lot of scientific, but I never publish them because they simply won't allow.
They wouldn't allow you?
Yes, it's about a matter of allowing, because they say it doesn't fit the theme of the Center for Astrophysics. So I don't want to talk back about the institution, but it is the finest astrophysics institution in the world. In terms of instrument building, in terms of technology, we can produce the best. You often look at the X-ray picture of the sun. Those are from very fine camera that we built that with multi-coating layers, because the X-ray, they come in very slowly and then they're going to diffuse, come out, but we make very fine way to catch them so they can come up, so the image are crystal clear. You can see all the structure on the sun. It's made by my center. They are good scientists, except that when it comes down to a larger picture of science, shh, don't say this, don't say that, this and that, and then all of that. This is why even at Harvard, I quit taking money from NASA and NSF, all these other places in 2004, because I'm beginning to think that science being so unaccountable, funded by taxpayer, that all these people.
2004. Wow. Okay. Okay. I thought it was 2010 when all this crap started. Huh. Went back further than that. Yikes. This is why I miss the 90s. Yes, I'm a 90s kid. Bite me.
It's so unconscionable. So I personally chose that.
Are you old man? No. I'm just wise man.
That is nobody to blame but myself. But I chose to take only from foundation who are willing to give me money, right? So I wrote those kind of proposal and then got to go through the director's office, this and that, right? I have a very, very happy and fruitful career. Everybody can look up my publication list. It's very long. And not only that, it's not the number that counts. It's the quality of the paper. I always want to remind people, I don't like talking about how many thousands of paper you write, this and that. It's not important. Which paper that is really important for certain issues. That's important that if you are able to show that, that's good. That's what I mean. All my papers are basically under a lot of this serious thinking and serious evaluation, checking and rechecking before I would care to write about anything. Because you don't want to write anything that's wrong tomorrow. You want something that can write. But science is basically garbage can now. These scientific papers. I categorically would even make this statement. I will make the statement that about 80 to 90% of the paper published in so-called climate science today should not be published. But everybody have NSF grant, everybody have all these grants. You see how the inflation goes, just like the other day, you hear that Yale University, a large part of it, most of the students on 2022 or something all got grade A grade, grade A, they diluted the grade. But Harvey Rich assured me that in medical sciences and hard sciences, Harvey Rich is the professor at Yale University. He teaches in the medical school. So he said, no, not true. So that he tried to assure me he has quality. Maybe not in his class, but Harvey not in any other class, right? Anyway.
So I want to ask, just as a kind of last topic, which is not related to this, but we talked about it off the air, and I think it's really interesting. You were telling me that you see God or evidence of God in math.
Well,
can you explain what you were saying? Or maybe I misread what you were saying.
No, you did not. I have been closer and closer to God in the sense that because it takes me a long time, I'm rather rebellious.
And I thought I hit the right button. Because you're going into God. Sorry, my bad. I thought I was talking about. I wasn't. No. Anyway, that is it. So he's gonna go on about God, and I'm like, So yeah, they have been lying to us for a very long time. For what purpose? We don't even know. They obviously don't like. They don't like the fact that we can improve our lives on our own. Like, as I said with my GoFundMe video, with those who are going to watch it, just to recap, they don't care. They're more cared about just shoving things down our throats. With the referendum in Australia, like you saw what happens when they tried to force everyone to buy Bud Light, Alphabet. What happened? Everyone gone. Everyone just doesn't. And it just goes to show we can do things on our own, boycotting them. We don't even have to include them. We don't even have to indulge them. So I was actually, I'm actually glad Tucker Carlson interviewed this guy because it seems the blanket has been pulled over our eyes for quite some time, and they're just trying. They have zero interest of fixing this. Like good on you, Elon, for creating Teslas, but it seems like it was a useless cause. So we're fine. It's probably maybe we should start growing. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Maybe we should start growing biofuel, and Lord, by the God Emperor knows, we've got plenty of space here in Australia. We've got plenty of space in Africa. We've got plenty of space everywhere. Maybe we should start growing biofuel if they're so concerned about it. And then the greenies can, the leftoids can go do it themselves. So yep, that has all been answered. It's a load of BS. And they're shutting down power plants at a rate that is alarming, and replacing with solar panel wind power that cannot support the grid, like 3%. What that is an estimate for in terms of the global thing, 3%. That is sad. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave my link in the GoFundMe down below if those who want to like just make a donation or make a there was a $2 one, but even GoFundMe has a limit, so it's going to be $5 a week or $5 a fortnight or $10 a month with the bonus. So it will be a bonus for you guys, for those who do $10 a month, and just get the fund going. Just get this resource up and running, and I'm more than happy to provide plenty of funds for this guy who's doing actual proper science. And if he can get other scientists behind him who, well, I say get behind him, but it's more the fact is that we can finally bring them out in the out of the pinch that they're in, because obviously securing funding. Oh yes, we'll say this: to secure funding, they should be allowed to do the actual science, and so that is my goal: is to build nuclear reactors, and that's one cost of living we can eliminate is power, and then we'll work on the others at the same time, especially the biggest one, farming. Well, probably not the biggest one, but one of the more important ones that farmers have been screwed over for so long. Like the price of food hasn't changed in 100 years. Like like orchards still got like 50 cents per fruit, and the supermarkets absorb it all. So anyway, guys, it's all been a lie. It's all a load of BS. The climate does not change because of the carbon emissions. It is the gas of life. So it's far more. It's happening on a on forces that are far greater, far more powerful. It has been revealed. It has been revealed. Alrighty, guys. Please consider, because this can't go on. This cannot go on, and I will build brand new systems to help us. That will boycott them all and help those that don't get helped by the government, like you've seen the U.S. and everything like that, and all these all these what do they call them? Bloody economy migrants, or for the yeah, but it's more of an economy migrant than fleeing war and tyranny. So yeah, please consider, guys. All right, that's enough out of me. Thank you for tuning in. Ciao, bye.